The great hall of the Galactic Empire's council was calm at first. Tall pillars glowed with soft blue light, and alien leaders from across 1,000 star systems sat in a wide circle. They had gathered for another routine meeting, another day of endless speeches, numbers, and reports. For most, it was boring work. The Empire was strong, unchallenged for centuries. No other species dared to question their rule. Their fleets ruled the stars, and their power stretched across galaxies. The Empire had nothing to fear, or so they thought. Then the silence broke. A sharp sound echoed through the chamber. A sensor officer rushed inside carrying a glowing data tablet. His skin was pale green and his 4 hands shook as he tried to speak. "My lords," he stammered, his voice trembling, "there is something you must see." The council leader, an elder with silver scales and cold black eyes, frowned. "You interrupt our session? Speak quickly." The officer placed the tablet on the central table. A hologram appeared above it. The image of a giant shape in space, dark against the stars. "It is a warship," the officer said. "Unknown class. Unknown design. Detected on the edge of Empire space." The council members leaned forward. A warship? That was not unusual. Many alien races had ships, some even had fleets. But the Empire always kept control. No one built anything greater without permission. One of the admirals laughed. "It is probably a pirate vessel. Or smugglers. Why waste our time?" But the officer shook his head. "No, Admiral, this is different." The hologram zoomed in. The ship appeared larger and gasps filled the room. It was massive, far bigger than any standard destroyer or battleship. Its dark metal body stretched like a blade across the void. Lines of strange patterns glowed faintly along its hull. The Admiral stopped laughing. "How large?" asked another counselor, his voice sharp. The officer swallowed. "Over 15 kilometers in length." The room fell silent. "That is impossible," someone whispered. The Empire's largest dreadnoughts were 5 kilometers long, and even those were rare, built only in secret shipyards at great cost. To build something 3 times larger was beyond reason. No race in the galaxy should have the resources. The council leader narrowed his eyes. "Which empire dares this? Which neighbor has betrayed us?" The officer hesitated. His voice dropped almost to a whisper. It is human." The words hung in the air like a shadow. At first, no one reacted. Then slowly, laughter began. "Nervous, forced laughter? Humans?" one senator scoffed. "The primitive ones? The little apes who only left their planet a few decades ago? Surely this is an error," another said. "They barely understand warp travel. They are nothing." "Yes," a third agreed. "It must be stolen technology. Or a trick. Perhaps pirates using human codes." But the officer shook his head again. "The signature is clear. The designs are human. The ship is registered to Earth." Now the laughter died for good. The chamber filled with uneasy silence. Everyone in the Empire knew about humans. They were small, stubborn creatures from a minor world. They had fought hard wars among themselves, but in the galactic stage they were new, weak, and unimportant. The Empire never considered them a threat, yet the hologram told another story. The council leader leaned forward, his black eyes narrow and cold. "Show us the energy readings." The officer tapped his tablet. Numbers appeared above the hologram. Power levels. Reactor output. Weapon charge. The numbers were insane. "This is wrong," one admiral barked. "No ship can hold that much energy." Another officer muttered, "That cannon output, it could crack a moon in half." The room erupted with voices. Some shouted that the data was fake. Others demanded proof. The council leader raised a clawed hand for silence. "Send a probe," he ordered. "At once. Scan this ship directly." Within moments, a small Empire probe was launched into the void. Its sensors locked onto the human vessel. The council chamber watched live on the hologram. The probe drifted closer, sending back images of the giant warship. Its black hull reflected no light. It was like a shadow given shape. Then, suddenly, the hologram flashed white. The probe was gone. Destroyed. The chamber filled with stunned silence. No explosion, no struggle. Just one instant the probe was there. The next it was gone. A single precise shot had erased it. The council members sat frozen. Fear crept into their eyes. "That was not defense," whispered one of the admirals. "That was a warning." The council leader's voice was low, almost a growl. "So the humans have teeth after all." No one laughed now. The chamber was filled only with the quiet hum of the hologram, still showing the human warship, silent, immense, waiting. And for the first time in centuries, the mighty Galactic Empire felt something it had long forgotten: fear. The destruction of the probe left the Galactic Council in shock. For long seconds, no one spoke. The hologram above the table still showed the human warship drifting in space, silent, dark, and unbothered. Finally, Admiral Korak slammed a heavy fist against the table. His armored plates rattled with the impact. "This cannot be," he growled. "Humans do not have this power. This must be stolen technology, perhaps from the Ver Dominion or the Quarn engineers. Someone gave them this ship." Others nodded quickly, clinging to the idea. It was easier to believe humans had borrowed or stolen something, rather than imagine they had built such a monster themselves. But deep down, fear lingered. "Send another probe," suggested a counselor. The officer hesitated. "My lords, after the first was destroyed, our ships in the area refused to launch a second." "The crews fear the same fate," the counselors muttered angrily. But behind their anger was unease. Even their disciplined fleets were hesitating. Then the council leader, Lord Serac, raised his hand for silence. His silver-scaled face was cold, but his black eyes betrayed caution. "If humans are hiding such power," Serac said slowly, "we must test them. A single probe is nothing. I will dispatch a cruiser, a small warship, to observe more closely. Humans cannot dare attack the Empire directly." The command was given. Far away, on the edge of Empire space, the order reached the nearest fleet. A sleek Imperial cruiser, the Velnor's Spear, changed course and set its sights on the mysterious human vessel. Inside the cruiser, Captain Ryler paced the bridge. His crew whispered nervously at their stations, glancing at the massive shape filling their sensors. The human ship dwarfed their cruiser. Its hull was black and strange, with faint lines glowing across its surface as if it carried hidden veins of light. It did not move, but it radiated silent menace. "Open hails," Ryler ordered. Static filled the air. Then a voice replied. Calm. Cold. Human. "This is the Earthship Invictus. Identify yourself." The bridge crew exchanged looks. The voice was steady, without fear. It carried weight, as if the speaker knew exactly what kind of power rested behind his words. Captain Ryler forced himself to answer. "This is Captain Ryler of the Imperial cruiser Velnor's Spear. You are in restricted space. Power down your ship and prepare to be boarded." There was silence. Then a single short reply. "No." The crew froze. None of them had ever heard such defiance, spoken so simply against the authority of the Empire. Lesser races begged, bargained, or obeyed. These humans? They refused. Ryler's throat tightened. "I will repeat myself. Power down or we will fire." Another silence. Then the human voice returned, calm as ever. "If you fire, you will not get a second shot." The words hit like a blade. Some of the crew looked away from their screens, unable to meet their captain's eyes. Ryler clenched his jaw. "Target weapons," he ordered. His voice cracked slightly, but the command was obeyed. The cruiser's weapon banks locked onto the human vessel. Alarms hummed as power built up, and then the screens went dark. Every system, every light, every weapon, all shut down in an instant. The ship was powerless, floating helplessly in the void. Panic erupted on the bridge. Officers shouted, slammed controls, tried to reboot systems, but nothing worked. The human ship had done something impossible. Then, across the comm, the human voice returned. "We are not your enemy, but we will not kneel. Leave now." The systems flickered back to life. Lights returned. Consoles glowed. The cruiser was alive again. Captain Ryler stared at the human vessel. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. He felt the weight of their fear and his own. Slowly, with a trembling voice, he said, "Withdraw. Set course away from the human ship." The cruiser turned, engines burning as it fled. Back in the council chamber, the report arrived within hours. The story spread quickly. The counselors listened in disbelief as Captain Ryler described how his ship had been disabled without a single shot fired. One senator leaned forward. This cannot be true. No weapon can disable an entire cruiser without damage." Ryler's voice shook as the recording played. "It happened. They could have destroyed us. They let us go." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some shouted that humans had discovered forbidden technology. Others demanded war at once before humans grew stronger. But one thought, silent and unspoken, hung in the air. If this was only one ship, how many more could there be? The council leader's face hardened. His voice was sharp and cold. Very well. If the humans think they can frighten us, they will soon learn the truth. We will send a fleet. Hundreds of ships. We will crush this shadow before it spreads fear across the stars. But as he spoke, some of the younger counselors glanced again at the hologram of the human ship. It had destroyed a probe. It had disabled a cruiser. It had spoken with calm certainty, and in the hearts of many, doubt began to grow. For the first time in the history of the Empire, a question no one dared ask was whispered in private. What if the humans could not be crushed? The council tried to keep the truth hidden, but fear does not stay buried for long. Rumors spread faster than any fleet. Soldiers whispered in the barracks, merchants traded stories in shadowed markets, and even common citizens spoke the words no one wanted to hear. The humans have a ship. At first, people laughed. A warship built by humans? Impossible. The little primates from the blue planet were still new to the stars. How could they create something greater than the Empire itself? But the laughter always faded when someone told the rest of the story. A probe destroyed in one instant. A cruiser silenced without a fight. A human voice warning an Imperial captain to retreat and letting him live. The tale grew like fire in dry grass. Each retelling added more weight. Some swore the human ship could vanish into shadows. Others claimed it could tear planets apart. No one knew the truth, but the fear was real. Inside the academies where young officers trained, whispers turned into questions. If one human ship can disable a cruiser, a cadet asked, what if they build 10? Instructor, another demanded nervously. Is it true they cracked a probe in half with only one shot? The instructors barked at them to be silent, but even their voices carried unease. In the great marketplaces of the capital, traders raised their prices on human goods. Some refused to sell human technology at all. Too dangerous, they muttered. Who knows what they hide in these machines? On distant mining colonies, workers spoke of rebellion. If humans could resist the Empire, maybe others could too. Why should they live as servants when a small, young species had already defied the greatest power in the galaxy? The Empire's admirals met in private war rooms. Their voices clashed like weapons. Admiral Korak slammed his fist against a steel table. We must attack now. If humans are building more of these ships, every moment we delay is weakness. Fear spreads because we allow it. Another admiral shook his head. His eyes were tired, his voice low. And if they do have more, our fleets will suffer losses unlike any we have seen in centuries. The people will see us bleed. They already see us bleed. Korak roared. They whisper in markets and laugh in the streets. Are we to sit and let fear rot the Empire from within? The argument raged for hours. In the Emperor's palace, the mood was no calmer. The Emperor himself stood on his balcony, staring out at the sprawling city of light. His advisors gathered behind him, whispering reports. Your Majesty, trade has slowed in 3 sectors. Recruitment for the Navy has dropped. Families fear sending their children to fight humans. Even the frontier governors speak of hesitation. They compare you to the human captain. They say the humans act with more honor than we. The Emperor's face hardened. No one dared meet his eyes. Honor? He said at last, his voice cold as ice. They are insects who stumbled into the stars, and yet they have planted fear in my empire. His claws tightened on the balcony rail. If fear is the weapon of humans, he said softly, then fear will be turned back upon them. Meanwhile, on the outer colonies, common soldiers spoke more openly. In smoky taverns over cups of bitter drink, they shared what they had heard. My cousin was on the cruiser Velnor's Spear, one soldier said. He told me the humans shut them down. Just like that. No damage, no fight. They could have killed them all, but they didn't. Why didn't they? Another asked. The soldier's cousin shook his head. Because they didn't need to. That's the worst part. They let us live, like a predator that spares the prey, just to remind it who holds the power. The table fell silent. Even the bravest soldiers stared into their drinks, unsure what to say. The humans had not fired again. They had not invaded, not conquered, not expanded. They had simply waited, and waiting was worse than war. Every day the Empire did not act. Fear grew. The human ship became a shadow that stretched across the galaxy, a symbol, a question, a threat. In the council chamber, Lord Serac sat alone long after the debates had ended. His cold black eyes studied the hologram of the human vessel. Its shape was simple, almost plain, yet it radiated power unlike anything he had ever seen. Finally, he whispered into the empty chamber, "They are not like the others." The words echoed softly off the walls. They do not beg. They do not bow. They do not break. His claws tapped the table slowly, each click louder than the last. If this fear spreads further, the Empire will tremble. And if the Empire trembles, he stopped, unwilling to finish the thought. For centuries, the Galactic Empire had crushed rivals before they could rise. But now, for the first time, the Empire faced an enemy that had not even attacked, yet already shook its foundation. The humans had built a single warship. One ship alone, and the Empire was afraid. The order spread across the Empire like fire. A fleet was to be assembled. Not a patrol squad, not a handful of cruisers, but an armada. Hundreds of warships gathered at the edge of human space. The Empire wanted to make a statement. One ship, no matter how powerful, could not defy them. In orbit above a barren moon, the fleet formed up. Cruisers, destroyers, battleships, carriers, all bristling with weapons, their hulls painted in the colors of the Empire. Their engines lit the void like 1,000 burning suns. Admiral Korak stood at the heart of the command ship, a dreadnought named Imperial Wrath. His voice rumbled through the comms, carried to every vessel. "Today we remind the galaxy who rules the stars. The humans dared to challenge us. They dared to frighten us. That ends now. Forward to glory." The crews cheered, but their cheers felt hollow even to themselves, because far ahead, alone and silent, floated the human warship, the Invictus. It did not run. It did not hide. It simply waited, as if daring the Empire to come closer. The Empire's fleet advanced. Rows of ships closed in around the lone human vessel, surrounding it in a tightening circle. Weapons locked on, shields flared to full strength. On the bridge of the Imperial Wrath, an officer reported, "Target locked." "Shall we fire, Admiral?" Korak bared his teeth. "Yes, show them their place." The order was given. Dozens of ships unleashed their weapons at once. Bright lances of energy cut across the void. Explosive shells and plasma bursts streaked toward the human vessel. The darkness of space turned into blinding light. For a moment, it looked like the Invictus would be torn apart. But when the firestorm cleared, the human ship remained, unmoved, unscarred. Its black hull glowed faintly, as though mocking the Empire's weapons. On the bridge of the dreadnought, officers stared at their screens in disbelief. Direct hits. "No damage detected," whispered one. Korak roared in anger. "Increase firepower. All ships, concentrate fire." The fleet obeyed. Hundreds of weapons fired again, shaking the void. But the result was the same. The Invictus stood untouched, then it moved. At first, the motion was small. The massive ship rotated slowly, as if turning its gaze toward the dreadnought itself. Then its weapons lit up, silent lines of white energy along its hull glowing brighter and brighter. On the dreadnought's bridge, alarm screamed. "They're charging something." Korak shouted, "Shields at maximum! Prepare countermeasures!" Too late. A single beam of white light erupted from the Invictus. It struck the lead battleship beside the dreadnought. The battleship did not explode. It simply vanished, erased in one blinding flash. An entire ship, gone in less than a second. The fleet panicked. Crew shouted. Officers screamed orders. Some ships broke formation, engines burning as they tried to flee. The human ship fired again. Another Imperial cruiser disappeared. Then another. Each shot was precise, clean, terrifying. The Invictus did not spray fire wildly. It did not waste energy. Every blast was deliberate, as if it were choosing its victims. On the command ship, chaos reigned. "Admiral, our flank is collapsing. Half the fleet is retreating. Our weapons are useless." Korak slammed his fist against the console. "Cowards! Hold the line. We are the Empire. We do not run." But even as he shouted, he felt the truth clawing at his heart. This was no battle. This was slaughter. The comms cracked to life. A voice filled every ship at once. Calm. Cold. Human. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the Invictus. You are outmatched. Withdraw now. Do not test us further." The words silenced the chaos. Across the fleet, soldiers froze at their stations. The humans had not taunted them. They had not raged. They had spoken with terrifying certainty. "Admiral," one officer whispered, trembling. "If we continue, we will lose everything." Korak's hands shook. His pride demanded he fight to the last, but his mind saw the truth. Already dozens of Imperial ships were gone. The fleet could not win. At last his voice cracked as he gave the order. "All ships, retreat." The Empire's fleet scattered. Engines flared as hundreds of ships turned and fled into the void. Only wreckage and silence remained where once the might of the Empire had stood. The Invictus did not pursue. It fired no more shots. It simply turned away, as if the battle had never mattered. Back on the Dreadnought's bridge, Admiral Korak sank into his chair. His chest heaved. His claws dug into the armrests. He whispered the words no Imperial admiral had spoken in centuries. "We were defeated." News of the battle spread faster than the Empire could contain it. Every star system, every colony, every world heard the same unbelievable tale. A single human ship had faced an armada, and the armada had run. To the Empire's citizens, it was unthinkable. To its enemies, it was hope. And to the humans, it was only the beginning. The Empire had not lost a battle in centuries. For generations, it had crushed rebellions, silenced uprisings, and bent entire star systems to its will. But now one human ship had shattered that myth. When the broken fleet limped back to the core worlds, the Empire trembled. Citizens gathered at spaceports to see their proud warships return, scarred, crippled, or missing altogether. Families searched for names on casualty lists, and everywhere whispers grew louder. The humans did this. In the Grand Senate chamber, the leaders of the Empire erupted in chaos. The chamber, usually a place of order and pride, was now filled with shouting voices. "This is unacceptable," one senator roared. "One primitive species cannot humiliate us so." "They are not primitive anymore," another snapped. "We saw what their ship can do." "They only built one," shouted a third. "One ship. We should crush them before they build more." "And if they already have more?" came a trembling voice from the back. The room fell silent at that question, because no one knew. Admiral Korak, his face pale and his voice heavy with shame, stood before the senators. "My fleet engaged the human vessel. We attacked with full force. Hundreds of ships. Our weapons had no effect. Their defenses are beyond anything we have ever seen. In return, they destroyed our ships with single strikes. They could have destroyed us all. Instead, they let us live." Gasps filled the chamber. Some senators muttered angrily, others looked away. One senator spat in disgust. "They mock us. They treat us like children. We cannot allow this insult to stand." Another older senator leaned forward. "Or perhaps they showed mercy. That is worse than an insult. It means they are strong enough to choose." The word mercy hung in the chamber like poison. The Empire never gave mercy. It only demanded obedience. In the palace, the Emperor listened to the reports in grim silence. He stood before a towering window, his cloak trailing behind him, his claws clasped tightly together. "Mercy," he muttered. "The humans gave us mercy." His advisors shifted nervously. One spoke carefully. "Your Majesty, the people demand answers. Fear grows with every rumor. Some already say humans may rival even you." The Emperor turned, his eyes burning with cold fury. "Rival me? They dare? They are nothing but creatures of dirt and water crawling from their single world. Yet somehow, they have shaken my empire." His claws scraped against the stone floor as he paced. "If we admit weakness, rebellion will spread. If we attack again and fail, the empire will collapse. If we do nothing, fear will consume us." The advisors lowered their eyes. No answer was safe. In the streets, protests began. Ordinary citizens shouted in fear and anger. Some demanded protection. Others demanded the Empire strike back. A few, bolder than most, carried strange banners, drawings of the human warship painted as a symbol of defiance. The guards tore the banners down, but the images spread. They appeared in secret markets, scratched into walls, whispered in songs. The humans had become more than enemies. They had become an idea that even the Empire could be resisted. In the lower halls of the Senate, smaller councils met in secret. Ambitious governors, greedy merchants, and rival factions saw opportunity in the chaos. "If humans can fight the Empire," one whispered, "why can't we? If the Emperor looks weak, perhaps it is time for a new ruler." Plots grew in the shadows, fueled by fear of humans but also by hunger for power. Back in the main Senate chamber, the debate raged on. "We must build greater weapons," cried one senator. "We must sue for peace," argued another. "If we provoke them further, they will destroy us." "Peace," snarled the first. "With savages, never." The arguments grew louder, more desperate. Some senators demanded war. Others demanded diplomacy. Some spoke of annihilation, others of surrender. The council had never been so divided. At last Lord Serac rose. His silver scales gleamed under the chamber lights and his cold black eyes swept the room. "Enough," he said. His voice carried the weight of command, silencing the arguments. "The humans have shown us what they can do. They are not like the others we have conquered. They do not bow. They do not beg. They do not break. They are dangerous." The chamber listened in silence. "We cannot act blindly," Serac continued. "Another fleet lost will end us. Yet we cannot sit still or fear will devour us. We must learn. We must discover their secrets. Only then can we decide their fate." A murmur swept the senators. Some nodded. Others scowled. But for now, Serac's words carried the room. The Emperor himself, watching from his high seat, finally spoke. His voice was soft, but every ear bent toward it. "Then let it be so. We will not strike blindly again. Send spies. Send merchants. Send agents in the shadows. We will learn what these humans are hiding. And when we know their weakness, we will crush them." The chamber roared in approval, but underneath the noise was unease. Because the truth was already clear to many. The humans had changed the balance of power. The Empire was no longer unchallenged, and even if they tried to hide it, fear had taken root in their hearts. For weeks the galaxy held its breath. The Empire sent spies, merchants, and hidden agents to learn what the humans were doing. They expected to find secret shipyards, hidden fleets, or vast armies waiting in the shadows. But they found none of those things. Instead, Earth was strangely ordinary. Cities grew, ships traveled, and humans continued their daily lives. Yes, their technology had advanced, but not to the scale the Empire feared. There was no grand armada, no endless fleet. Only one ship stood above them all, the Invictus, and that made the Empire even more uneasy. Because if the humans had achieved that much with so little, what could they achieve in time? At last humanity broke its silence. A message was sent not only to the Empire but across the galactic network, broadcast to every world that would listen. The hologram that appeared was simple. A human man stood on a raised platform, dressed in dark navy uniform. His face was calm, his eyes sharp. His voice carried steady strength. "I am Captain Elias Ward of the Earthship Invictus," he said. "To the Galactic Empire and to all who hear my voice, humanity does not seek conquest. We do not seek dominion. We seek freedom." The words rippled across the galaxy. "For too long," Ward continued, "our world has been treated as a child, expected to obey stronger powers. But humanity is not a child. We are a people who endured war, famine, and struggle. We rose from the dirt and reached the stars with our own hands. We will not kneel. Not to the Empire. Not to anyone." The hologram shifted, showing the Invictus hanging silent in space, its black hull gleaming like a blade. "This ship was not built for conquest," Ward said. "It was built for defense. It is a shield, a promise that humanity will never again be threatened, never again be enslaved, never again be silenced. Attack us and you will regret it. Leave us be and we will leave you be." Then with a calm nod, the message ended. The galaxy exploded with debate. On some worlds, crowds cheered. For the first time, someone had stood against the Empire and survived. In secret taverns and shadowed meeting halls, rebels whispered the name Invictus like a prayer. On other worlds, fear grew sharper. "If humans can build such ships," they whispered, "perhaps they will not stop at defense. Perhaps one day they will come for us all." The Empire itself was torn. Some senators claimed the humans were bluffing, that they must have more ships hidden. Others argued that if humans spoke truth, then they were even more dangerous. For no one could predict how far they would go when pushed. In the Imperial Palace, the Emperor listened to the recording again and again. Each time his fury deepened. "They claim they do not seek conquest," he snarled to his advisors, "but their very existence defies us. Their ship stands as a challenge to my rule, and their words. Their words inspire rebellion across my empire." Lord Serac, ever cold and careful, bowed slightly. "Perhaps, Majesty, their strength is not only in their weapons, it is in their will." They refuse to break. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Then we must be the ones to break them. Meanwhile, aboard the Invictus, humanity's leaders met in secret. Captain Ward stood with scientists, generals, and diplomats. Our message is out, Ward said. The Empire will not ignore it. They will come again. Stronger, angrier. A general nodded grimly. We cannot build another ship like the Invictus. Not yet, resources are stretched thin. But we can prepare in other ways. Alliances, trade, information. If the Empire fears us, others may stand with us. A scientist spoke up. And our technology still has room to grow. The Invictus is only the beginning. Humanity learns fast, faster than they expect. Ward looked out the viewport where the stars glittered cold and endless. Then we must make them believe. Not that we are invincible, but that we will never stop fighting. That is our strength. Back in the Empire, fear twisted into paranoia. Rumors claimed Earth was secretly building a second Invictus. Others swore humans had weapons that could destroy suns. The truth no longer mattered. The idea of human power was enough. In the Senate, one voice summed up the growing terror. Do you not see? They do not need a fleet. They only need one ship, one story, one symbol. And the galaxy will believe. For the first time in living memory, the Empire hesitated. Should they strike again, risking another defeat? Should they negotiate, swallowing their pride? Or should they wait and let fear fester like a disease? No answer seemed safe. And as the Empire argued, humanity stood firm. Not an empire, not a conqueror, but something far more dangerous to the old order. A people who refused to kneel. The message from humanity echoed across the galaxy like thunder. We do not seek conquest, but we will not kneel. Those words shook the Empire more than any weapon. For centuries, fear of the Empire had kept the galaxy silent. Now one voice, calm, steady, human, had broken that silence. Inside the Senate chamber, chaos burned hotter than ever. Senators shouted across the hall, their voices a storm of anger, fear, and confusion. They are lying, one shouted. No species builds such a weapon only for defense. They are honest, another argued. If they wanted conquest, they would have used their ship to destroy the fleet completely. They spared us. Spared us? A third voice spat. That is worse than war. They humiliated us before the galaxy. Every senator shouted, but no one agreed. The once proud council looked broken, fractured by fear of a single ship. In the palace, the Emperor raged. He paced across the polished stone floor, his claws scratching deep marks into the surface. They spread rebellion with their words, he snarled. Worlds that feared me now whisper of freedom. Governors hesitate to send tribute. Colonies resist orders, all because of humans. His advisors bowed low, afraid to speak. At last, Lord Sirac raised his head. His voice was calm, but his words carried sharp weight. Majesty, what if fear cannot be erased? What if the humans have already won, not with guns, but with the idea they planted? The Emperor froze. His eyes narrowed. Then, he whispered, we must turn fear against them. The Empire's spies worked day and night, searching for proof that humanity lied. They wanted blueprints, hidden shipyards, anything to show that Earth was secretly building a fleet of Invictus-class warships, but the reports were always the same. No shipyards. No hidden armadas. Only Earth, only one ship. That was worse than finding a fleet, because it meant the humans truly had done the impossible. One world, one species, one ship, enough to terrify the galaxy. Meanwhile, on distant colonies, rebellion sparked like fire. On the mining moon of Trass, workers refused to deliver ore to the Empire. They painted crude human warships on their walls, chanting, "We will not kneel." On the agricultural world of Kron, farmers armed themselves with stolen weapons, declaring their fields free of imperial tax. They carried banners with the human word freedom painted across them, though most did not even know what the word meant. The Empire's soldiers crushed these uprisings swiftly, but the seed had been planted. Every execution, every crackdown only spread the idea further. Back on Earth, Captain Elias Ward of the Invictus stood before the United Human Council. "They are afraid," Ward said simply. "Not of our weapons. Of us." The council members nodded, some with pride, others with deep concern. A scientist spoke. "We cannot build another Invictus yet. But perhaps we do not need to. Perhaps one is enough." A diplomat leaned forward. "The galaxy is watching. Every world sees us as a symbol. If we stand firm, others may follow. If we fall, others will despair. Ward looked out the viewport. The stars stretched endless before him, vast and silent. He spoke softly, but his words carried steel. Then we must not fall. In the Empire, fear turned into paranoia. Reports filled the Senate. Merchants refused to travel through human space. 2 governors have declared neutrality. Rumors say humans are building a second ship, bigger than the first. None of it was proven, but truth no longer mattered. What mattered was the fear that even whispers of humanity carried. Finally, the council gathered for one last desperate debate. The chamber was dark, shadows stretching long across the floor. Lord Serac stood before the senators. His silver scales gleamed under the faint lights and his black eyes burned cold. "You all see it now," he said. "It does not matter if humans have 1 ship or 100. It does not matter if they tell the truth or lie. What matters is that the galaxy believes them, and belief is stronger than any weapon." Murmurs spread through the chamber. No one dared argue. "The humans have planted fear," Serac continued, "and the Empire itself has watered it with blood. Now even our allies doubt us, our enemies rise, and all because 1 ship stands in the dark." He pointed at the hologram of the Invictus glowing faintly above the table. "That is not a ship. That is a shadow over the galaxy. A shadow we cannot erase." The chamber fell silent. For the first time in centuries, the Empire faced an enemy it could not simply crush. And far away, the Invictus drifted silently through the stars. It did not fire. It did not conquer. It only waited. But the galaxy would never be the same. Because now everyone knew one simple truth. If humanity could build this once, they could do it again. And if they did, the Empire's reign was already over.